Hey there, everybody. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I've got a fresh tale to spill, so let's jump right into it. I'm Chad, and I'm about to walk you through a wild experience I still can't quite wrap my head around unless I lived it myself. Life has this sneaky habit of turning everything you know upside down right when you're least prepared for it. One second, I was up at the altar, heart racing, waiting for the woman I adored, picturing our whole future laid out like a perfect roadmap. The next, I was glued to my phone. I was locked on a text that smashed every belief I had about love, loyalty, and the one I thought I'd be with forever. For nearly 3 years, I was wrapped up in what I swore was the ideal romance. My fiancée, Courtney, and I had crafted a life together, dreams, plans, the works. We even had a wedding date circled in red on the calendar, a day I figured would kick off our lifelong adventure. I was rock solid certain of her, of us. No doubts crept in from the moment I dropped to one knee, and she said, yes, her eyes glistening with tears. I thought that was it. My search was over. I'd found my forever person. I'd tick off the days, buzzing with excitement, imagining the moment I'd finally call her my wife. As that big day crept closer, the energy ramped up. My family couldn't stop grinning. Relatives I hadn't seen in ages started rolling in from all over, eager to celebrate. My closest buddies were pumped, too. One even cracked a joke about how he never pegged me as the first to tie the knot. When the wedding morning hit, I woke up a jittery mess, but in a good way. Everything was ready, the venue sparkled, guests trickled in, and I was rocking the suit I'd spent weeks choosing. My best man gave me a solid pat on the back, chuckling, chill out, dude. It's your moment. Soak it in. I bought every word he said. The ceremony was set to kick off at 3 p.m. At 2:58, there I was, standing at the altar, the crowd hushed and buzzing quietly, all eyes waiting for Courtney to glide down that aisle. The officiant shot me a steady nod, and I flashed a grin back, feeling ready. But then nothing. 3 minutes ticked by, then 10. I held my smile, but I could sense the room shifting. People started sneaking looks around, their whispers growing. My parents swapped worried glances, and Courtney's mom and dad looked just as lost, twisting in their seats like they thought she'd burst in any second. 20 minutes late, my best man leaned over, muttering, maybe she's just caught up, last-second dress tweaks or something. I nodded, acting like I bought it, clinging to that tiny shred of hope. But when 40 minutes dragged by, the vibe in the room had flipped entirely. My mom's eyes met mine, brimming with quiet pity, like she'd already pieced together what I couldn't face. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I snatched it up fast, unlocked it, and read the words that hit like a punch to the gut. I can't do this, Chad. I'm sorry. That was all she wrote. My breath caught, like someone had yanked the air right out of me. I dialed her number on instinct. Once it rang, then cut to voicemail. I tried again. Same deal. By the third attempt, my palms were sweaty, my breathing shaky. I swung my gaze to Courtney's parents, desperate for them to have some explanation, but their blank, baffled faces said it all. They were in the dark, too. Her mom's eyes flicked around nervously. Her dad slipped out, phone in hand, probably trying to reach her just like I was. By then, the guests caught on something was off. A few slipped out quietly, acting like they had places to be. My groomsmen stood there, stiff and silent, no clue what to say, and honestly, I was just as lost. I'd never felt embarrassment like that before. 1 minute, I was the groom-to-be, ready to start a new chapter. The next, I was some chump left standing solo at the altar. What was I supposed to do? Call it out to everyone that the wedding was a bust? I sucked in a deep breath and forced the words out. She's not coming. My own voice sounded alien, like it belonged to someone else. It was the first time I'd admitted it out loud. Courtney was gone. People started filing out in clumps. Some gave me awkward shoulder pats as they passed, tossing out, I'm so sorry, man, or let me know if you need to talk. Others couldn't even meet my gaze. But one person stuck around when everyone else peeled away, Samantha, Courtney's little sister. She hurried up to me, her face full of real worry, and whispered, Chad, I'm so sorry. Something about how she said it cut deeper than the rest. I couldn't muster a reply. I just stood there, eyes glued to the exit, half expecting Courtney to stroll back in, laugh it off as a dumb prank, and fix everything. But deep down, I knew that wasn't happening. That night, I was sprawled out in my apartment, all by myself, gazing at a half-empty glass of Jack Daniels sitting on the table. I kept staring like maybe the answers to everything were hiding at the bottom of it. The whole day felt like some awful nightmare I couldn't shake, but no matter how many times I ran it back in my head, the truth didn't budge. I couldn't stop wondering what had gone so wrong. Courtney and I had nearly 3 years together, countless talks about what our life would look like, plans we'd sketched out, dreams we'd painted for the future. How could someone who swore she loved me pull this off? And why couldn't she at least have the guts to tell me face to face? Everyone, my buddies, my family, even random people, had seen me up there, looking like an idiot, waiting for a bride who was never going to show. If she had second thoughts, why didn't she just say something? If she didn't want to be my wife, why let it drag on until the last second? I'd poured months into making that wedding perfect for her, every detail, every moment, and when it all fell apart, I was the one stuck sifting through the wreckage while she vanished without a trace. In the days after, my friends checked in, doing their best to lift me up the only way they knew how. They'd say stuff like, "You've got to let it go, man," or, "Trust me, you dodged a disaster." A couple even tried pairing me up with new girls, but I wasn't having it. Dating sounded like climbing a mountain I had no energy for. Most days, I could barely stumble through without my brain looping back to Courtney, picturing where she might be, trying to crack why she'd done this. But there was one person who didn't act like I was some fragile mess: Samantha, Courtney's younger sister. At first, I figured she was just being nice, popping by out of duty or something. But she kept coming around, texting me, making sure I didn't skip meals, even dragging me outside when I wanted nothing more than to lock the world out. "You don't have to face this on your own," she said one time. I gave her a little nod, but inside, I was thinking, what does she get about this? She's not the one who got ditched at the altar. Still, she didn't let up. She never shoved advice down my throat or tried to rush me past the hurt. She just stayed there, steady as a heartbeat. Little by little, I started noticing her being around was the only thing keeping my head above water when my thoughts tried to pull me under. After Courtney bailed on me that day, I spent weeks tearing apart every memory, hunting for clues. I'd replay every chat we'd had, every tiny second we shared, searching for anything I might have missed, some sign she was slipping away. I kept wondering if I'd messed up somehow, if there was something broken in me that made her bolt. But no matter how hard I dug, it didn't add up. She'd never once hinted she wasn't happy, never let on she was unsure. Then one evening, Samantha swung by like she'd been doing lately. She showed up with takeout, and we plopped down on my couch. She started chattering about random stuff, light things to keep my mind from sinking, and then, out of nowhere, she went quiet. She set her drink down, took a slow breath, and I could tell she was wrestling with something big. I wasn't ready for what came next. "Chad, I've got something to tell you," she said, her tone heavy but careful, like she wasn't sure she should even go there. "It's about Courtney." My stomach tightened. I braced myself. "She didn't leave because she was afraid of getting married," Samantha went on. "It wasn't cold feet. She left because she never really cut things off with her ex." My whole body locked up. "What are you saying?" I managed to get out. Samantha kept talking, her words steady but loaded. "She told you he was history, that he was bad news, and she was done with him. But that was a lie. He was still around. And on your wedding day, she took off with him. All that time, I'd been beating myself up, thinking it was my fault. And here was the truth. Courtney had been playing me for who knows how long, and she couldn't even own up to it." I shut my eyes, dragged in a long breath, letting it settle. At least now I had an answer. I opened my eyes, looked at Samantha, and gave a small nod. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. She offered a sad little smile. "I thought you deserved the real story," she replied. And she was right. I did. If you'd told me a few months back that I'd end up hanging out with Samantha so much, I'd have chuckled at the idea. Not because I didn't like her, she'd always been kind, but in my head, she was just Courtney's quieter little sister. Courtney had this way of owning a room, sometimes for the wrong reasons, while Samantha was more low-key, thoughtful, the steady one. But after Courtney left me standing there, Samantha was the only one who didn't fade away. Over time, our quick talks turned into real hangouts, not dates or anything, just two people finding some kind of ease in being around each other. Every now and then, Samantha and I would snag a coffee and chat about whatever popped into our heads, nothing heavy, no big expectations. For the first time in ages, I could just be without feeling like the world was caving in on me. That easy rhythm held steady until one night, months after Courtney had vanished from my life, when everything took a turn. We were lounging in my living room, some old flick flickering on the TV, barely holding our attention. Out of the blue, Samantha spun toward me, her voice cutting through the quiet. "I've got something to tell you," she said. I met her eyes, curious, and she didn't flinch. "I've always had a thing for you, Chad, even back when you were with Courtney. I thought she didn't deserve someone like you." I wasn't sure what I'd braced myself for, but that sure wasn't it. I just sat there, stunned, trying to wrap my brain around her words. Samantha having feelings for me? It didn't click. Not because she wasn't amazing, she was, but I'd never looked at her that way before. My mouth opened, then shut again, words escaping me. A whirlwind of thoughts hit me all at once. Would this be messed up? Would people judge us? What if Courtney came waltzing back? Before I could spit out a single question, Samantha shook her head firmly. I don't care what anyone else thinks, she said. I just know how I feel, and I figured you ought to know too. That night, I flopped into bed, staring up at the ceiling, my mind racing too fast for sleep. Her confession kept looping in my head. She'd always felt this way. How had I missed it? I rewound through the past year, all those times with Courtney, never noticing Samantha hovering quietly in the shadows. I tried shoving the thoughts aside, but they clung tight. I wasn't about to leap into anything rash. I had to be certain this wasn't just me patching up the hole Courtney left. So, we took it slow, letting time sort things out naturally. As the months rolled by, I started catching on to something. Samantha didn't just support me, she changed how I felt. Being around her was effortless, peaceful. Maybe that's what love was meant to be all along. We kept things under wraps, not out of shame, but because we didn't need the chatter. It was just us, two people figuring out if what we had could stand the test of time. And as the days stretched on, I knew it could. Dropping to one knee, holding out a ring, and asking Samantha to be my wife wasn't a scene I'd ever pictured. But after everything we'd weathered together, months of quiet, steady connection, I realized she was the only one I wanted by my side for the long haul. She said yes without a second's pause. Right away, we agreed. No splashy wedding, no huge crowd. Just a small gathering with family and close friends, simple and heartfelt. After my last wedding turned into a public train wreck with 100 people watching me crash, neither of us wanted a redo of that chaos. When Samantha broke the news to her family, the reactions were all over the map. Some were genuinely happy for her. They'd seen how we'd leaned on each other, how we'd built something solid, and they cheered us on. Others weren't so sure, and I can't say I faulted them. It's not every day your sister ends up with her ex's fiancé. But Samantha didn't blink. Courtney picked her path, she told them flat out. This is mine. And with that, we pressed forward, whether everyone was on board or not. Then, out of nowhere, Courtney called. I thought that book was closed for good, so my first reaction was pure confusion. After all she put me through, what could she possibly want? I let it ring out. No chance I was handing her the satisfaction of picking up. But Courtney wasn't one to back off easy. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again, a text. Please, let's talk. I laughed under my breath. Talk about what? I had 0 words for her, so I ignored it. She didn't stop, though. Over the next few days, messages kept trickling in. Some were short, like, can we chat? Others rambled on with weak excuses and flimsy apologies, never owning up to the real damage. At first, I couldn't figure out why she cared now. Then it clicked. She'd heard Samantha and I were engaged. Her last text sealed it. You were supposed to be with me. I stared at my screen for a long stretch, a tangle of feelings swirling. But one thing stood out clear. I didn't owe her a thing. I typed back, short and sharp. You chose your road. I've chosen mine. Sent it, blocked her number, and that was that. She was gone for good. The day I married Samantha ranks up there as one of the best in my life. The wedding was nothing like the one I'd planned with Courtney, just a handful of people who really mattered, no fuss. Courtney didn't show, not that I thought she would, and I was relieved. I didn't need her shadow hanging over me, dragging up old wounds. As I stood there, holding Samantha's hands, trading vows, I couldn't help but think back. Marrying her, of all people, wasn't a twist I'd seen coming. But it made sense. She'd been there when I was at rock bottom, sticking around not just when it was easy, but when it was tough. Looking into her eyes, I knew letting go of my past and choosing her was the smartest move I'd ever made. A few days after the wedding, bits and pieces about Courtney started trickling in. I'd thought I had the full story, but nope. Turns out, she ditched me because her ex convinced her to run off with him, the same guy she'd always labeled as trouble. And get this, he didn't even marry her. Whatever fairy tale she'd cooked up about him turning into her dream guy fell flat. He wasn't in it for commitment. He just wanted to see if he could still pull her strings. She fell for it, and it didn't take long for him to lose interest and bounce, leaving her high and dry, just like she'd left me. When that crumbled, she came crawling back, not because she'd had some grand epiphany about me, but because she saw I'd moved on and found happiness with Samantha. This whole mess taught me some hard-earned lessons. Sometimes, what feels like the end of the world is actually the start of something better. If Courtney hadn't walked away, I'd never have seen her for who she was. I'd have missed out on what real love feels like, steady, not stormy. With Courtney, it was all fire and sparks, but it could fizzle out in a heartbeat. With Samantha, it's calm, no games, no chasing, no second-guessing if I measure up. I don't have to beg for love. It's just there. That's what it's supposed to be. Don't cling to someone who won't choose you fully. It took me way too long to get that. Love's a decision, and if they can't pick you without wobbling, they don't deserve you. Don't waste your energy proving yourself to someone blind to your worth. So, I'll toss this out to you. What would you have done in my spot? Would you have given Courtney another shot? Pretended Samantha's feelings didn't matter? Or would you have walked the same path I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear.